last night. You could see the shirt behind me. One of the big pieces of news from AEW last night is the best man, Miro, a.k.a. Rusev. Now, this is something I really thought he was going to join or be unveiled on All Out. I thought he was going to be the 21st man in the Casino Battle Royale. It was Matt Sydal who almost killed himself on a slip spot in the corner. Botchamania ran wild for Matt Sydal on Friday night. Yeah, I agree, Scotty. Skip Bayless is a jackass. But I guess he got the reaction that he wanted today.
I don't know. What did Skip Bayless do?
Well, I guess there's an article in The Athletic where Dak Prescott, after his brother's suicide, had talked about between that and the pandemic was dealing with a lot of mental health issues. And Skip Bayless more or less said that Dak Prescott, as a quarterback and a leader on the team, should not be admitting that he has mental health issues.
Cool. So everyone has to be superhuman.
Yeah, so he can stick. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah,
cool.
Exactly. What a jackass. But obviously Miro, aka Rusev, debuted with AEW last night. And Devin says he's going to be straight up with us. He says he thought that Eminem, it was Eminem at first. Yeah, the bleach blonde Rusev is a much different look than we are used to seeing.
I like it though.
Yeah, it definitely signifies something different for him. And he didn't do it just for AEW. If you follow him at all on YouTube or whatever, you have seen that he did that a few weeks ago. But and then you heard the clip on our intro. I threw that on today. You can take the brass ring and shove it up your ass. I love Rusev Miro in AEW. First off, he is going to look like a monster with that roster. There are very few people in that company that are going to look any bigger than Miro. So Miro immediately can and should have the rocket strapped to him. Because I mean he compared to, and I'm not just saying Marco Stunt, I'm saying the majority of that roster, Miro's bigger than. But generally speaking, I don't like the presentation and promo style of a lot of not only AEW, but some guys in Impact as well, of a fuck you WWE guy. Like that gimmick or that style can only go so far. And then at some point you have to present something different for these guys. But for Rusev Miro, I got to keep saying it. I don't mind that. I don't mind that was his first promo, because let's be honest, out of all the releases from April, Miro may have like the biggest and most legitimate gripe, because that's a guy that got over big time. That's a guy that did and should have been. Who's the other one?
Well, no, he did it twice.
Well, yes.
Once as a heel and once as a babyface.
Right. And both times they screwed up. So, like, you bring a guy out on a tank and you put him against John Cena. If he wins that match, he's a made star at WrestleMania 31. And then when Rusev Day happens, whether or not it was organic or not, whether it was by accident or not, the minute you had Rusev Day, he could and probably should have won a world title. They should have capitalized on that, and they didn't. And every single time the rug was pulled out from under him. And I know on his like YouTube channel, he has said like he doesn't like hold anything against WWE, but like from a wrestling standpoint, if a company is going to give him another shot, if a company is going to give him an opportunity, yeah, he should be able to take that and kind of give the middle finger to WWE. So he's like one of the few that I have absolutely no issue with that promo. And I don't want that to be his whole gimmick. But when you get introduced, glass ceiling, 10 years, brass ring, shove it up your ass, I have zero issue. And I loved because he is one, and I said it when he got released. That's going to be one the WWE regrets. They don't regret a lot when it comes to talent releases. That's going to be one that I think the WWE a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, they might go, uh-oh, we probably shouldn't have done that.
You also forget the time, Jim, that Rusev and Summer Rae had the fantastic Dog Ziggler promo where Rusev threw that fish down the aisleway.
I did forget that moment. That was one of the best ones.
Occasions.
I did forget that one. That was a great moment in wrestling history.
I think we can pinpoint a lot of people that WWE has dropped the ball on, but with that being said, a lot of the time it's just because they didn't catch on. Like, I continued and will continue to pound the table that Luke Harper was just drastically underused in WWE. But at the same time, I mean, he was just part of the family, didn't really get the showcase he deserved. And then the whole tag team where him and what's-his-face lost to the Usos like 8 consecutive times, it just kind of killed any momentum we could ever have for them. Same with Ryder. Got over for a little bit, had your favorite WrestleMania moment, Jim. But, again, just like kind of was just there. So I think Rusev really does stand out to me. Really does stand out to me as one that, like, WWE will look back on. We really screwed the pooch on this one, kind of like they did with 2/3 of the 3-man band and eventually righted their wrong after.
So, like 3 years from now, when Heath Slater returns to win WWE Championship,
jacked, yep, and just like,
well, he's already super jacked. He just has to work his way through Impact and then go back to NXT.
Right. So, I mean, I think those are kind of people, and I did see in the comments, EC3 and Frank's not even here to say that, but yes, another one that I think that they could have used in a very different way. Tim, you alluded to it earlier. If Ricochet is no longer part of the company, someone that, was the face of Lucha Underground to an extent for so long, carried a company that everyone just loved for so long, and then didn't really do a whole lot in WWE. But, if you're making a Mount Rushmore of people who WWE didn't use properly, I think Rusev is in that discussion.
I think the biggest difference to Charlie's point, and I'll put the comment back up here on screen. He said Eric Young, EC3, Mike Bennett, believe are going to be the biggest regrets of WWE. The difference with those guys and with Rusev / Miro, Eric Young and EC3 and Mike Bennett were known outside of WWE. EC3 was a star in Impact Wrestling. Eric Young was a star in Impact Wrestling. Mike Bennett was a star, I believe, more with Ring of Honor. Rusev was homegrown. Rusev was a guy that they cultivated. They had, like he said last night, 10 years in that system, in one house, and they screwed it up. So yes, I don't disagree that EC3, the fact they never gave that guy a mic, still baffles me. Whether you agree or not, because I think, Tim, you have different opinions than we do on EC3. But the guy is gold on the mic, and the fact that WWE never gave him this stick and let him do what he does is baffling to this day. Mike Bennett, super talented. Eric Young, super talented. But you don't necessarily look at Mike Bennett and Eric Young as typical, quote unquote, WWE stars, typical Vince guys. You look at Rusev and what he was, and at his size, and the fact that he was charismatic on the mic, like, he had everything to be a WWE star. And the fact that he became a star on multiple occasions, and they found a way to pull the rug out and screw it up multiple times. Like Devin brings up a great point. The Royal Rumble in 2018, like, and Devin was there because I think that was the one that was in Philly. Like, and I get it. Like, you're probably not gonna pull an audible at the 11th hour when you get down to the final four of the Royal Rumble. More times than not, I'm sure it's happened, but you're probably not going to do it at that point. But like, if you would have flipped that switch, if you would have made that call at that Royal Rumble, and Rusev would have won, like, imagine how much different things could have been. It would have been wild. Like, this is a WWE miss big time, because, like, I mean, Eric Young, Mike Bennett. Mike Bennett, I think, has an NWA title match this weekend. Like, those guys are going to be fine. EC3 is going to be fine, whether he permanently lands in Impact, whether he permanently lands in Ring of Honor, whether he does end up landing in AEW, he's going to be fine. And the WWE may end up getting them later at, again, some point. Doubtful on the Bennett side. But, like, Rusev, Miro definitely is a huge miss with WWE. Tim.
I think the difference between Miro and the other people that have been mentioned that were released, Eric Young and EC3 and I'm trying to remember the name, Mike Bennett, is, unfortunately, I can go anywhere and pull any three guys, and they look like an Eric Young, a Mike Bennett, or an EC3. Do you know how many jacked white guys there are out in wrestling? All of them. All of them.
There's a lot of jacked white guys. There's a lot of skinny, bald white guys.
Right. And that's not to take away from how talented Eric Young is, and how charismatic EC3 is, and how dynamic Mike Bennett is. But Rusev hits a different audience. European, super athlete, like actual legit, like, and I'm very excited for Rusev or Miro to be able to show his actual personality, who he is as a person, on AEW television.
Yeah.
His style, like the way he dresses, the way he acts, very different than Rusev. And I think that people like Nikki, who aren't necessarily the biggest Rusev fans, might turn a page and actually get into Miro, because Miro's a guy. WWE's done this. To me, Miro is more analogous to another time that WWE let one of their homegrown stars leave and go to the competitor to make a name for themselves. And that is Christian Cage. Christian was a part of WWE for a long time, in a rut. Didn't really have anywhere else to go. Christian wanted to bet on himself. And WWE thankfully gave him that opportunity. And he went to Impact Wrestling and crushed it. And became a main eventer. Became a multi-time world champion. And when his time was up with Impact Wrestling, he came back to WWE. And where was he? Right near the top of the card. You got World Heavyweight Championship Christian. Granted, Edge had to die for Christian's sins. Edge had to retire so Christian could get the world title. But Christian was also featured as the big star of WWE ECW, which, regardless of whether people think that that's serious or not, it was their third brand, and they took it serious enough. And Christian was the star of that brand. Like, and Christian was having bangers with a lot of like the young guys that were coming into WWE. Miro going to AEW is very analogous to that. To my point, Charlie says the last time EC3 or Eric Young was on WWE television, he thought he was Ken Kennedy. I make my point. Like, I'm not trying to be facetious, but it's like a topic in wrestling in 2020, but also in more recent years, is representation. and to have many different looking types of people is big. Even in that one segment with Kip Sabian and picking his best man. You know, you had Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian. And then you get independent wrestling star Puff. Puff does not look like a wrestler. Puff looks like my cousin. We were in the same room to each other, and we were like the Spider-Man meme, where we were just looking at each other like, what? Like Puff, me and Puff are almost the same guy. So in this one segment, you've got I think Kip Sabian is he Australian or New Zealand? I forget where Kip Sabian is.
One of those.
I'm gonna look it up because I'm gonna feel really horrible if he's not. He's from
English.
the UK. Sorry.
Wow.
It's all the Commonwealth. So you've got Kip Sabian, you got Penelope Ford. You bring out Puff, who looks like me. Then you bring out second generation star, Brian Pillman Jr.
How much does he look like his old man?
Hey, but he doesn't wrestle like him. And then you get Rusev. So just there, the representation that's there of people who get featured on AEW goes from guy you've never heard of to guy whose dad you loved to Rusev. So like there's a lot of representation being brought forward in AEW in AEW. And that's another reason why, not to make it a WWE topic, but that's why I'm kind of here for the Hurt Business.
I love the Hurt Business.
I do too.
I'm absolutely love the Hurt Business. They got me to love Bobby Lashley in the year 2020, which is not a simple thing to do. I've never been a Lashley guy, but man, like, and I guess this is a little bit more as he was presented in Impact.
Yes, because it's almost a ripoff of the Beatdown Clan.
Kind of has that
with
feel
MVP
to it.
and Bobby Lashley and Samoa Joe and Kenny King.
Yes, yeah, but I
Cedric
like
Alexander is Kenny King.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Charlie says, to Tim's point, the last time Eric Young was on WWE TV, he thought it was Ken Kennedy. He also says about AEW, why does everyone have to be paired with someone? Cage and Taz, Miro and Kip, Lance and Jake, Brody with Dark Order, Nyla Rose with Vicky Guerrero, the FTR with Tully Blanchard.
And it's kind of smart, though, because you're pairing a face you recognize, Taz, Miro, Jake the Snake Roberts, Luke Harper, and you're immediately pairing them with people you've never seen before.
Fair.
Brian Cage.
Yeah.
Kip Sabian.
It just
Luke
a lot of those things
Lance
happen.
Archer.
A lot of those things happened within the last 6 months, and it just felt like every heel gets a manager. Like every heel gets a manager, and like
they did in the 80s, and nobody had a problem.
That's true. It's just it is just very different than
Bobby Heenan had 37 people he was managing.
Well,
he managed everyone from the Missing Link
to Andre
to Brooklyn Brawler to Warlord to Barbarian. Like he managed everybody. Slick had everybody. Like the Heenan, not the Heenan family, the first family, Jimmy Hart's first family. Like it's very old.
But
school
that was one manager for a lot of people. This is like every bad guy gets a different manager, except for Spears and FTR. But it is.
Yeah,
I think
it is easier to tell more captivating stories when you add multiple pieces to the puzzle. That's why tag team wrestling is a good tag team match should be better than a good singles match because you've got more colors to paint with.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Intern Mark, your thoughts on Miro and his debut in AEW?
Well, I'll tell you what. I thought the AEW Dynamite show this week was really good in the prior week and better than the pay-per-view. But I wasn't completely shocked. I was really expecting to see Miro on the pay-per-view, but I really kind of, when he came out and said his piece about the WWE, I very much enjoyed that. It almost reminded me of when the 1-2-3 Kid or X-Pac came back to WWE after he left WCW and kind of talked about how WCW was. But it was a nice surprise. He's going to do really well. I can't wait to see him in some main event matches. And I really cannot understand how WWE missed the boat on him, because like everybody here is saying, he had every piece to be just an incredible superstar, world champion, and WWE really dropped the ball on him.
Yeah,
way to say, but they missed that big time.
I feel like he checked all the WWE boxes. Charlie says here, the pairings don't necessarily make sense. Brody should be alone. Archer should be alone. Jake should be with the Dark Order. Miro should be. And here's it. Miro still could be alone. Like, if we know anything about wrestling weddings, they generally don't go well. So this decision to have Miro be the best man may not work out for Kip Sabian. We don't know. I do think AEW is making a mistake by not having Miro in a match next week. Unless it's the wedding next week. I don't remember when the Sabian and Penelope Ford wedding is. Said Nyla should be alone. I definitely agree on Nyla and FTR. I don't think they need managers. At least FTR. Maybe Nyla.
Yeah. Like, I think that there's a lot of... I think because we've seen WWE exclusively over the last 20 years, that like we're kind of programmed to the way WWE does things.
That's
and like
fair.
Everything there kind of, a lot of that makes sense to like to have pieces that go together that make sense. But the more intriguing story is to tell me why Jake fits with Lance Archer. Tell me why Vicky Guerrero fits with Nyla Rose. The Tully Blanchard and FTR I'm completely fine with, because that's a very big homage to Bobby Heenan and the Brainbusters.
Okay.
Tully Blanchard was a brainbuster. That's them. So like Tully is cultivating the new him.
But why do they need to be cultivated if they're already the greatest tag team in the greatest tag team division in the world? You know what I mean? If that's how they're presented from day one,
system.
I guess.
Great's only great until something greater comes along. Like, why anybody who does, any wrestler who, when you hear interviews, the only reason you do something is to be the best. FTR has always said they were the best. They haven't had a one-on-one match with the Young Bucks yet.
That's fair.
Yeah, and like we'll get to that point, but I think Tully Blanchard is, when you're the best, you don't settle on just being the best. You thirst for knowledge, and you thirst.
I will say this:
better than best.
Tully Blanchard with FTR feels a lot better than Tully Blanchard with Sean Spears, who feels like a complete afterthought in AEW anymore.
Well, he still manages them.
Oh, he does. He does
on AEW Dark, that other show that I don't watch on YouTube.
Right, exactly.
Because it's like 13 matches.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot.
If you like wrestling, AEW
Dark.
Luther and Serpentico.
But yeah, another thing that doesn't make sense to me, from a booking standpoint, is last night. Like, now it looks like Jericho and Jake Hager are going towards the tag team titles. You already have a tag team in the Inner Circle. Why are you stealing their thunder, man? Like, it just seems a bit illogical unless there's cracks in the foundation with the inner circle. I don't want to go too crazy with overanalyzing Dynamite last night because I think it was a pretty good show.
Santana and Ortiz are busy.
They are with
They got best friends.
Yeah, and Mom's minivan and stuff, which is, I mean, goofy and fun. I like it.